Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished participants, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored to be with you today and would like to extend my gratitude to the Kingdom of Bahrain for their hospitality extended to me and to my delegation. Let me also express my profound thanks and appreciation to the International Institute of Strategic Studies, especially to Dr. John Shipman, for inviting me to participate in this timely and valuable dialogue. It's a pleasure to sit in this panel with my esteemed colleague and friend, His Excellency Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond and Dr. Khalid Khoja. It is quite heartening to see the diversity and high level of representation from the region and beyond. Indeed, during these troubled times, the stakes cannot be higher as I join our host, the International Institute of Strategic Studies, in hoping that this session of the Manama Dialogue will have facilitated frank, result-oriented discussions on the many converging challenges that confront the political and economic stability of the greater Middle East, including my home country, Afghanistan, with global security implications. Ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan is where we have long experienced and suffered from terrorism, which is a manifestation of extremism challenge that confront our disparate and yet interdependent regions. We remain quite concerned about the growing threat of ISIS, which has resulted from the complex and deadly conflicts of Syria and Iraq over the past few years. ISIS has increasingly tried to expand its presence in Afghanistan, where our brave security forces continue to fight other terrorist organizations and extremist groups, including the Taliban, the Haqqani Network, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, the Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement, and their affiliates. These groups constitute a dangerous network of terrorism that destabilizes Afghanistan, the region, and the rest of the world alike. For us, unfortunately, our struggle against regional and transnational terrorism networks began long before the tragedy of September 11, 2001, and its impending global war on terror. Today, we remain in the forefront of the combat against these ever-growing security threats, since the complete takeover of the security responsibility from NATO ISAF. Our brave security forces have relentlessly been fighting the Taliban and the many terrorist networks that support them. We daily win the battles against terrorists, frustrating their plots, preventing them from spreading their influence, and degrading their operational capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, as a nation, we continue to defy terrorist threats and non-stop terrorist attacks. And we will remain steadfast in our will and commitment to defeating extremism and terrorism. Of course, we haven't been alone in this endeavor, even though we continue to lack the critical enablers which our forces need to defeat and eliminate the threats of terrorism and extremism. At any rate, however, we thank our friends and partners in the international community for having stood by us since 2001. Their continued support has enabled us to make significant progress in various domains. Even so, however, the security situation in Afghanistan remains quite challenging, and this has directly resulted from the continued acts of terrorism, which has found consistent support and sanctuaries in our region. Ladies and gentlemen, the consensus is that the nature of the threat posed by terrorism and extremism demand a comprehensive approach which extends beyond just military efforts. This realization underpins the UN Global Counterterrorism Strategy and has been reaffirmed in multiple regional and international forums on terrorism and extremism. This includes the second summit meeting on the countering violent extremism, which convened on the margins of the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly this past September in New York. Needless to say, extremism and the violence it generates have blindly targeted peoples of different faith and nationalities in different parts of the world. This is why we must walk our talk by redoubling our efforts to counter the narrative of extremism while promoting moderation, peaceful coexistence, tolerance, and harmony. These are the universal values embedded in all religions. In Afghanistan, we have partnered with civil society, religious leaders, and the academic institutions as we effectively counter extremism. In October 2013, the Afghan High Peace Council organized, together with the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation and International Ulama Conference, to explore ways that could end the imposed conflict on our country. Some 200 Islamic jurists and scholars from around the world participated in this meeting and adopted a declaration that condemned extremism and declared illegitimate any decree that contradicted the values and principles of Islam. Moving forward, we will strive to reinforce the message of peace, prevent the distortion of our noble religion, and counter extremism. Consequently, we have decided to convene a follow-up conference in the near future to build on the outcome of the first meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, ending violence in Afghanistan tops our national priorities. We have made many sacrifices to achieve a successful outcome through our ongoing peace and reconciliation efforts. Despite the ongoing terrorist attacks, we have kept the doors of peace talks open to those elements of armed opposition who renounce violence and join the peace process. Our national defense and security forces will, however, defend our people against those elements who resort to violence and kill innocent civilians. As I said earlier, these are regional and global threats which we have single-handedly been fighting on behalf of the whole world. But it is appropriate to call on all stakeholders, those in the region and others beyond, to reaffirm their enduring support for the stabilization and sustainable development of Afghanistan against these threats. Indeed, the choice is ours to make. Staying the course in Afghanistan will systematically degrade and eliminate the threats of extremism and terrorism that undermine the security of all of us. Failing to consolidate and sustain the hard-earned gains of the Afghan people over the past 14 years will have far-reaching security implications that must be avoided at all costs. But we are confident that the international community, including our neighbors, friends, and allies, will choose the right path. And this is evident from the recent decision of the United States to extend military mission in Afghanistan, which we appreciate. And we too appreciate the decision of other NATO members, including Germany, Italy, and Great Britain, to stay the course in Afghanistan. Our international partners realize the importance of continued support to our security forces, and on our part, Afghanistan is committed to continue its fight against the menace of terrorism as a matter of national priority. I thank you for your attention.